Hey guys, so I decided to do a sort of a rant over footage of a speed paint. I did not plagiarize it, this is entirely my own. So, today I am going to be discussing my problem with fandoms as a whole. And that will segue into the rant on the fandoms that I was a part of across the whole of my childhood. Now, this will mean that some fandoms I will not discuss. For example, I will not be discussing the furry fandom because I wasn't really a furry entirely per se until I was court age adult. So basically any fandom I was in technically between the ages of, well, when I was old enough to be a fan of something between the age of 16. Which leaves me with 5. But leaving that there, I'm going to discuss my problem with fandoms as a whole. Pretty much, the first problem is most people get into it because, hey, fantasy, it's out of the real world, out of realistic. Yeah, no. There's going to be crap. There's going to be ship wars, there's going to be basically the equivalent of politics. Oh, you have this ship? Blasphemy! Unless you're dealing with a fandom that doesn't really have that many ships, but those even get toxic. But ultimately, it's a giant hive mind as well. If there's a general consensus, one thing will be seen as good and great, and going against that grain would cause all sorts of issues. Case in point, the furry fandom. Like I said, I'm anti-fandom, and this is exactly why. I went against the grain. I went against the grain once. Guess what? Somebody who told me he was my friend pretty much disowned me because of the Caro drama. Because I wasn't a blind sheeple follower. Like I said, fandoms ruin friendships. Just saying. Another one is just the idea that if you're a fan of something, like you just like something, you're expected to be in some sort of a fandom. No, because there was one time once upon a time, where you could just like something and leave it there. You just enjoyed something. You didn't have to adhere to something just because you liked something. But no, nowadays, if you like something, you must be in a fandom. Which leads me to want to introduce better alternatives. For starters, like I said, I am an anti-fandom fur, or basically wild, is how I like to put it. No fandom owns me. I had to do that. So, the main reason why I went wild, went out of the fandom, sure, I still like to draw anthros. still have a persona, still technically a furry. I just don't belong to the fandom. I don't associate with those people. And I'm not the only one. There's actually quite a few who are lone. They stay away from the fandom. You tend to see those when fandoms get so big. Like, it's one thing if, say, it's like a small property that just came out, like, for example, Has Been Hotel. I don't know too much about it, but I do have experience being in a fandom that was relatively young when I was in it. The FNAF fandom. Yes, I know, cringe, but you gotta bear in mind I was a freaking obnoxious hormonal teenager around that time. Now, if you try to say, well, Luciano, you can't be no more than freaking 13. Actually, I beg to differ. I am not an obnoxious hormonal young teen anymore. I'm almost... Let's see here, it's May at the time of recording this. I turned 20 in September. Bruh. So... But usually if fandoms get so big, you start to see people branching out. They just have the interest, but they don't want to adhere to the fandom, which that's perfectly okay. And to those who try to treat it like it's not, you have way too much free time on your hands if you're keeping score with somebody just because they have an interest but don't want to be in the fandom. But I digress. I mostly left because, well, the hive mind. The hive mind drove me to the brink. Also, I kinda got annoyed with having to keep that one particular individual off my shoulders. And by that, I'm talking about none other than Jonathan Hughes, aka Artie White Fox, aka Kobe Dobie Dog. He is a piece of work. Another common one you probably heard about was Voice of Truth. He was the one avidly defending Caro. Well, one of the ones avidly defending Caro. Jonathan Hughes does the same exact thing. Oh, and he's also an avid neo-Nazi. Wonderful. But either way, it just kind of drove me away from fandom culture. Which brings me to my biggest problem with fandoms as a whole. It is very much a social thing that is not needed. You can like something. You're allowed to like something. There's nobody telling you you legally can't like something. 'Cause, assuming you clicked on this and watched this, you're a human being, just like me. It's true, I'm not actually a fox behind the screen. I know, disappointing. I'm not a fucking otherkin. But, assuming you are a human being, you have hobbies and interests, like every other human being. So, why gatekeep something you're a fan of just because you don't want to be involved with the rabid fan bases? That is a legit question. I'm not being rhetorical. Because I get it. Naturally, as human beings, we want to be a part of a group where we feel included. That's normal. But things start to get bad when, well, I don't know. You start letting it cloud your judgment. You start letting it take over your mind. You start letting things as menial as a ship or an OTP completely ruin your friendship, or just your opinion on something ruin a friendship. So, that's my biggest issue. It pretty much ruins everything. Quite frankly, before I had the prospect of becoming lone, I eventually decided to give up. But then I'm like, no, I'm not gonna give up the fact that I like drawing anthros just because of some fuckwits. So, I went lone. Moral of the story, fandoms are dumb. Luciano out.